Good morning. Good morning. It's Monday. We're off to a good start. Uh, that's sarcasm. Had one truck blew a drive, blew out his airbag, so we're stuck on the side of the road. Got the triangles out, and we're gonna have to reschedule his delivery appointment. So there is that. Got this cough. So I've spent the last week eating bad food, several all you can eat places. I mean, I didn't overdo it, but just being exposed to that many people, 2 school concerts. I've got this cough now, so just so if you see me mute my mic, that's what's going on. So thank God for the mic mute, mic mute, something like that. Anyways, good morning. Those of you upset with me that I took my live feed Saturday down, there was a point where I got frustrated because I couldn't even say a word. So when it gets off the rails like that, I just want to chop it up and put out piece by piece. So that's probably what's going to happen. Like people, anyways. So that will be up there. Other than that, I hope everyone's doing well. I've got a light week ahead of me. I think everybody's gone home or their truck's down, and we've got one truck we got to worry about keeping moving, and that'll be pretty easy. So I'm going to get some stuff done around here. I believe my batteries in the truck are dying because my APU is running a lot more. I ran the truck for about a half an hour yesterday, moved it around, just to keep everything going good, and so I'm thinking I might run them. Traditionally, I could run a couple of loads during this time of year, but I'm not seeing a whole lot. So hopefully, you guys have made some plans to go home, and or you got something dedicated or something that no one else is doing that you're able to capitalize on. So, anyways, we're going to talk about the weather a little bit. We'll do our shout outs. Let's see if I get the weather up here. A lot going on in the weather. So a lot of people are talking. TC Boggs had talked about this Fox News article about this polar vortex that we're going to see. And, when you're seeing -10 below possible wind chills in Texas, southern Texas, man, man. Anyways, yeah, it's going to get interesting, right? Because you know how that Texas fuel just loves the cold. Anyways, let's get this screen on here. There you go. Lots going on. You got what's the dark blue? First of all, let's look at wind chill advisory. That's that color there. That's all that. And then that stuff's supposed to swoop down like this. I don't think we're supposed to get a whole lot of snow here in southwest Missouri, but it's definitely going to get cold. I think the low is going to be like -7 or -9 Wednesday or Thursday. So, but anyways, let's do some shout outs, and we'll get to work here. I'm gonna do something a little bit different today with the low board stuff because it'll be I'm curious of what it's going to look like. This tour life, what's up? Good morning, Jason. Hot seat, yes. Some weird lingo you got going on there. Hot seat, woohoo! Good morning, everyone. Says Shannon. Shannon has a great taste in t-shirts. Just letting you know. Six Semper Tyrannus, what's up? Grafton, good morning. Greg Zimmer, good morning. Hope you're doing well. I will be touching bases with you today. Wheel Burner Express, how's it going? I was on Wheel Burner's live feed, I believe, Friday night. And actually, I was on with Snorelord, Pale Rider for a little bit, and then Wheel Burner. I think it was up until midnight that night. Just right in the Ozarks. That's an interesting thumbnail. Good morning, sir. Truck is fine now. Codes only mean I need a software update. I'm good to go. Good thing I didn't cancel my loads. Good deal. I'm going to make a suggestion to you, Shannon. There's a tool that you can buy for your style truck and engine that will help you read the codes. And it'll save you some money on that. And it can also do force regens, and I'm sure somebody in this chat can tell me what I'm talking about. I forget the name of it. It's like $200 or $300, something like that. It pays for itself. Might be closer to $6. I don't know. But anyways, it pays for itself. Not everybody has so whenever I have an engine code come up, I can just look at my ELD software. Your carrier should be able to do that, unless they got the, it just depends on the carrier, I guess, as well. But they can usually see what your codes are, what your engine's telling or what the computer's telling the engine, or vice versa. So, Dennis, what's up? Yeah, we're glad that Shannon's good. Happy Monday, Steve. Hope you had a good weekend. To add to our headaches now, our HVAC blew. When it rains, it pours. Wow. That sucks. It's a hell of a time for that to happen. You talk about in the truck or your house. CDN, good morning, Steve. From bitter cold northern Alberta, only negative 15 Fahrenheit with wind chill feels like negative 29. Yeah. And you guys are sharing it with us this week, CDN. So I'm blame you. Canada is always giving us their cold air. So everybody blames CDN for your problems if your fuel filters freeze up. Blame the broker. All right, Shannon, that is awesome. I'm glad to hear that. If you need new batteries, I highly recommend Interstate Batteries. AGM, they're solid batteries from my experience. Yeah, that's usually what I get. Oh, hold on a second. All right, sorry about that. That call I've been expecting, so I almost didn't go live because of that call. So, anyways, that was an important call, but we're still here. Anyways, I usually go through a set of batteries every year and a half. It's just how it rolls. So these have extended longer because I the APU keeps them fresh, and I'm not running a whole lot. So, but what I should do is get a trickle charger, and just save money on the APU. So, but anyways, when it gets this cold, as cold as it's going to get tonight, I like having the APU, make sure everything's good to go, because if I have to go, I want the truck to be kind of fresh. So, Pneumatic Brit, morning, Stephen Chap from a flippin' cold Fulton, New York. Jerome, good morning. Jose Oser, what's up? Oser, I've heard you, man, I saw in somebody's feed that you had some health issues going on. And prayers for you, my friend. I hope you can get that sorted out. Yeah, that's right. Blame the Canadians. You're starting to sound like Brit. It made me laugh, Wheelburner. That makes me cough. HVAC in the house, getting bids this week, get it replaced soon. Hopefully, we got another heat source for now at least. Well, that's good. I need to get our wood stove looked at. We've lived here 20 years. I think I've had one fire in it, so we have to get that looked at. Of course, they're busy this time of year, so. And then we have a gas propane stove that my in-laws bought us for, um, 1 year when after the ice storm. We had a major ice storm here back in 2008, 2008. We were without power for a week, so we hung out at my mom's house. So she literally lived next to the office of the power company in her town, so she lost power for an hour, and we lost power for a week here in Springfield. So, but and now we've got a big generator as well, so we can also do that. Let's see. Pneumatic Brit trying to still will likely be out for weeks or months. Not sure at this point. Dang, Oser. I hope you and James Best have a plan to help you get through that. Let's see. You had to go take a 10-200. Bored as hell, but feeling well. Not really the lay around and do nothing type of person. I suggest some books, man. Put that phone down after the video, of course, and read some books. Man, having that device in your hand all day, man, that can really get to you. I've done a 3-day, well, it's going to be more than 3 days fast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and it's amazing how many times you just blindly pick up your phone for no reason. Kind of like cigarette smokers, after they quit, they still have the, that motion, like what do you do with your hands, kind of a deal. And but yeah, if when I was down with my leg, that was horrible. I got addicted to solitaire on my phone. And then when I got back in the truck, it transferred to that, and I finally had to delete the app from my phone. So, OTR Performance Tool, there you go. I have the OTR Performance Tool for $600 annually, but it saved me several times, and I haven't had it a year yet. Well worth the money. There you go. So, Shannon, that's what you want. Now, caveat to that is that you don't want to use it as a Band-Aid, right? Don't, I know of a driver that kept shutting off his lights and doing park regens or forced regens without fixing the initial problem. The OTR tool will help you diagnose, figure out what's going on, and get you down the road. So when you get to the shop that you trust, you can have them deal with it. So, good morning, Shadow Wolf. Got my coffee. Hope everyone else does too. Hope all are running and making bank. Charles Core, Merry Christmas, everyone. What's up? That ice storm was crazy. It really was. Couldn't get a hold of dispatch for a while. Crazy stuff. I remember that well. Shadow Wolf, the thing that I remember the most about that was so my wife at that time, she was still working in the office. And so I was at home just listening to the trees crash. I mean, just it was a miracle that we didn't get any home damage. When we were broke too. I had to borrow money from my mom to buy a chainsaw. And her validation was, well, you're going to help me with my branches too, and I did. we ended up going to Home Depot. Chick-fil-A had not opened yet, but they were getting ready to open, so they had the guys in the cow costume giving away free chicken sandwiches at the Home Depot while everybody was raiding pallets, of if you were a flatbed with a pallet of with pallets of chainsaws, you were the savior. And but I just remember that night, trees just crash, 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 and my wife couldn't get a hold of me. Um, she was stuck at the office. She had to spend the night there at the hospital. They got rooms if you get stuck there for weather. And yeah, it was a crazy time. That was probably one of the more significant things in my life I remember. But I just remember the trees crashing and hoping that nothing was going to hit go through the roof or go through one of the kids' rooms or whatever. So, good morning, David. How's it going? So, we're going to look at something different today. We're going to look at the 1 through 3 low board, but we're also going to look at DAP for a second because one of the things I want to point out are load volumes because I think that that's going to be an issue this week. So Oser, you picked a good time to be up. Now, if you guys didn't know, if you had the little red emblem DAT board, guess what? It's gone. They switched to their DAT 1. It's taken me a minute to kind of navigate it. What I don't like about it is, so I have this weird process. So I don't really look at load boards on the computer when I'm at home booking loads. I know that's weird, right? I have a system for DAT. I will look at it, take the second phone, take a picture of it so I can call and have all the information in front of me. And I can write on my phone, type setup. I have a Galaxy Note 10. And I write down the information on on the load because when you call on 20 loads for two different trucks, when I'm having one of those days, you will lose track of what you've called and what you emailed on. I've literally called on the same load 3 times, and I realized that I needed to change my system. Now the new DAT 1, now I can't fit all the information on one screen, so I'm trying to figure out a new system for that. So I know that's kind of dumb sounding probably, but I have a system and it works. And it helps me keep track of what I've called on. So because when it's going as fast as it can, I mean sometimes you call and the loads are just disappearing like that, and you got to be on it. So a lot of times, you can call from the app, but then now you got to push 1 or 2, so you can't go back to the screen to look at it. So, and I don't write. There's not time enough to write down everything for each load. If I wrote down everything on each load every time I called on it, I would never. I would have to go through a lot of paper. So I have a system and it works. So the DAT 1 thing is kind of thrown me off a little bit. Can't wait till CDL school. Well, good luck to you. Good morning, Snorelord. Saw below 0 temps, much coldness. Yep, we're going to see that later this week ourselves. Bad part was no communication with the home office, QC, and everything was spotty. Yes. Yeah, it was. It was a trip. And I ended up having a rear end collision in my pickup because during that time. That was the last accident I had. Um, that I didn't even get a ticket or nothing on that. I don't think so. Love you. All right. Da, da, da. Nine breed. If you don't deal with your demons, they will deal with you. It's going to hurt. Nikki 6. Yep. I'm not sure what we were talking about, but yeah. So let's do the vans. Each low board, I'm assuming Truck Stop has this, but I don't do truckstop.com. I'm assuming every low board has this, right? They have a hot market map. Now, I don't have the full-blown $200 version of that to give me the hot market maps, like in terms of, like load ratio counts. Oh, wrong screen here. This is the one I want to zoom in here. All right. So this is for van. And so it'll be interesting to see what these numbers look like here in about an hour. You're going to want the higher volume, like Arkansas is 386 in, 537 out. California is going to be a crap show, almost 3,000 going in and only 1,800 coming out. Colorado, 826 in, 352 out. Connecticut is lopsided. Georgia, looks like Georgia market's woken up a little bit, so you should be getting a decent rate coming out of there. Illinois, look at Illinois, 1406, 2369 out. So let's zoom this out here. We don't need it that big. We're not that old. Minnesota's good. Michigan's good. Mississippi's good. But these number volumes, right? So take out the lopsided, the numbers there, right? Ohio, 1541, 2537. Texas is actually more coming out than in. Now, something I want to point out to you guys, and we'll go to the 123 low board as well. This information is not, so the information can be useful, but it can also throw you off. Okay? And here's what I mean by that. I had a carrier call me and say, "Hey, I need you to book my truck. He's in Pennsylvania. I need you to book him a load." I'm like, "Well, what's his hours? What's he looking at? What's he want to do? That kind of thing." He's like, "Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, try to get him to Salt Lake because it was 17-1 on load ratio for van at that time. So within 5 minutes, I had a load booked." Well, by the time he got there, it wasn't 17-1 anymore. So he had to struggle to get out of there. It wasn't, Now, I did what I was told. And in a normal situation, I would not have picked that load based off of that number because I know how quickly these things change. But he wanted me to stage a truck in Salt Lake City, and neither one of us could predict that the market would have taken a dump at that point in that market. So this information is more or less a reference, right? It's kind of like encyclopedia in the library. Yeah, you can learn a lot, but it's not going to get you through life. Because one of the things that I was saying Saturday night is that the best loads don't hit the low board. They really don't. Are there good loads on the low boards? Yes. Are there good brokers that are posting on low boards? Yes. But if you are a smart carrier and a smart broker, once you make a positive connection, you want to keep that connection. Because brokers hate posting loads on load boards just as much as you hate calling on loads on the load board. That's why in the last 6 months, last 3 months, I've noticed that a lot of brokers are like reaching out to carriers because they want you on their own load board. They want you on their emails. They want to know they're looking for the carriers with the positive CSA scores. I had another, one of my outside carriers I dispatch for, I had to do a carrier packet for because it was a new broker, and they said, well, you don't have any inspections, but a picture of your truck and trailer will suffice. And so we did that. So, but I'm running into that more and more with this carrier. He's run 2 years without any inspections because he drives a fairly nice truck that doesn't get pulled into the scales. And so now you got brokers that are being picky because they can afford to be picky. Back when there was more freight than trucks, they couldn't afford to be picky. Oh, you got a horrible CSA score and you've only been in service for a month. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this load moved. But now they've changed their tune, and that's part of dealing with the spot market is the tune always changes. It's like a river. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's dried up, sometimes it's flooded. So once you can get to that point when you're creating those kind of connections, then the low board is just kind of the last resort, which is what it's actually designed for. And I don't know how to convey that any more than I have. And if the majority of the brokers that you're working with are trying to cut the rates so low that you can't maintain your business decently, then you have to find a new batch of brokers. You have to find a new batch or a new platform to make your money. So the lower your cost, the more flexibility you have. And this is a customer service based industry. I'm definitely fine with missing out on the super cold, snowy weather. I've already had my fair share in 20 years. And this is why it's so many dispatchers don't ask all the important questions. They ask rate first. If money seems okay, then they might ask a few. Most are speed dialing for loads. Details get lost. Right, and that's the frustrating part. Look, when everybody wants me to do videos on how I negotiate. It's there's no magic formula. I feel the room, and by that I mean, like, if you go into a crowd, and I've dealt with this, I've dealt with crowds. If my old man was to play a country western show, that's going to be a different crowd than a bunch of metalheads that were there to see us. So you have to, how do you talk to each room? Well, if you think of a broker on the other side of the phone as a room, or okay, let's feel this person out. If they answer the phone all nice and polite, then okay, now we're off to a good start. If they answer the phone rudely, or hurt, like with the sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Sense of urgency. I have a plan for that, of how I talk to them. If I can barely understand them, then I take a mental note of which brokerage that is, and just know that if I see one of their loads, I'll probably more than likely go to the email process, which is hard to do if you're a one truck operation booking your own loads and you're driving the truck. I speak coherently. I don't bring up, if I do a joke, it's something similar, about the weather, or, about, oh yeah, I had a tough weekend, but we're going to get through it, and so I'm just glad Monday's here. Kind of, makes people like, well, what? You're weird. It's the other way around. And you could do that over text. You could do that over email as well. And for the brokers that do know who I am, that I work with all the time, when they call me, I'm like, hello, so and so, what can I do for you today? That's how I answer the phone. And so you feel the room out, see what kind of response you get, and then you ask, hey, I'm looking at your load picking up in Springfield, Missouri, going to Indianapolis, Indiana. Can you give me the details, please? Then they go, it's 43,000 pounds of, finished product that picks up at 8 a.m. and delivers at 8 a.m. the next day. Oh, okay, cool. Who's the receiving customer on that? And they'll tell me, because, if it's coming out of Springfield, I pretty much know who that's going to be on the shipper side. We talk details, we talk products, we talked times. And usually when they tell you all that, yeah, we're looking to be at 1,500 for this. Okay, well, let me take a look here. Yeah, we're going to want to be around X amount, because I've got this and this we're dealing with. I don't like give them a pity story, but I just kind of like, we have I've done a few of these. We have outstanding service with you guys. We're willing to do the macro point. A lot of drivers bitch about macro point. I mean, you just have to sell yourself a little bit, and you don't want to seem desperate. And money should be the last thing you're talking about. In fact, I've had several brokers tell me that when the carrier goes to money first, they will shoot them a low rate because they realize that they're only interested in the money, not in providing the service that they require. And it's that simple. And so if you're a broker that's got carrier relationships, or a carrier that's got broker relationships, a lot of that stuff is you don't even have to do a lot of that. You've already done it. And it's a give and take. I've got two brokers that we constantly give and take. Every now and then I'll take a hit, and every now and then he takes a hit. He or she. I've got two of them. And they both have told me that they like dealing with me. Not kissing my ass. They're like, no, Steve, because maybe something happened, like a flat tire. I'll call and I'll apologize to him. Yeah, I apologize, man, but we got a flat tire, but I think we're only going to be an hour late. Is that going to work? And and I've called them a day in advance, or something like that, and they're like, I said, man, I apologize. I don't want to be like one of these other carriers that do that all the time. He goes, no, no, Steve, you're one of the good ones. I like dealing with you. And those are the kind that will give you their cell phone number. Those are the kind that will take your call on a Saturday or Sunday. Those are the kind that if they really want you to move that load, they will throw money at it. And that's how you maneuver through this market. It's literally that simple. There's no magic formula. Understanding human beings is important when it comes to negotiating. Having some empathy is important when negotiating. And if you want to look at it as us versus them, you have to do it in a way that's not confrontational. You have to do it in a way like, okay, let's dance. Let's do this dance. You know? I mean, there was one time where I called on a load. I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to do this dance here. I'm going to ask for this much, and you're going to come down to this much, and then I'm going to ask for this much, and we're going to settle on that. So let's cut the crap and settle on this to begin with. And they kind of they laughed at that, because I said it in a way that was non-confrontational, and I got the money I was looking for. And now that broker calls me by name. Hey, Steve, you got any trucks in the area? So it's just on how you talk to people. And if you don't know how to talk to people, but you can type some good sentences, that will help you too when it comes to the brokers that need emailing. And that's where I can come in. Maybe you're horrible talking to brokers. Well, that's where I come in. I'm not confrontational. I'm not, in this mentality that I got to take them to the cleaners. Nor do I want them to know that. Nor do I want them to feel that. Because if you call on a load and they literally tell you $1 a mile, how do you feel about that? Probably not very well. So when you call and you demand $5 a mile on something that normally pays $2.50, yeah, they're going to feel like you're doing the same thing. So it's a give and take situation. It's literally that simple. I don't know how many times I could say that phrase. It's that simple. Don't be an ass. Are there disrespectful brokers? Absolutely. But I guarantee you there's just as many disrespectful drivers. And so if you come across a broker that won't negotiate, if you come across a broker that doesn't have the details, if you come across a broker that talks to you like, talks down to you, then you don't use them. So if you're staying in the same high volume freight areas, you have more chances to call the people that do know what they're doing. But if you're stuck somewhere and there's only 10 loads on the low board, you got to take what you can get, and it's frustrating. But it's about running an operation, not load per load. And that took me a long time to kind of realize. What good's that high paying load if it's the only one you do for the month? I got $5 a mile. Yeah, but you run once a month. So are you making money? Are you happy? I wonder if you're feeling sick because you ate all that crap. I didn't go nuts, Shannon. I mean, I did have I still believe that sugar feeds cancer, so it's not like I way overdo it on that. But when it comes to the grains, I probably, and I agree. I mean, that's probably what part of it is. Mr. Mallory, good morning. Smooth Trucking, good morning. What sucks for me is the fact that brokers look at my carrier performance and not my individual performance. But this is where my individual relationship with certain brokers, agents works out. Yeah, I mean, look, there's probably a broker out there, Shannon said, man, I don't like dealing with Dart, but this chick's cool. So I'll only deal with her. I've dealt with that. So it wasn't even the spot market. So I was, Schneider had these pallet loads right here out of Springfield. They were drop and hook or they were live load, depending if they had any trailers. And I remember this conversation well. All right, I'm back. And so I go in this pallet place, and this guy right away had this attitude. He's like, "Oh, Snyder, what's your pickup number?" So I gave him the pickup number. He's like, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, this was supposed to be picked up 2 days ago." Well, I'm right there. Now I'm playing, customer service, right? Now I'm like, "Well, if you want, I'll get a hold of Snyder and let them know of your dissatisfaction. Is there something I can do?" I mean, here, I'll tell you what. He goes, "Well," I said, "this load barely popped up on my board because we choose our own freight here. It only popped up last night. So if there's a miscommunication, let me see what I can do for you." I said, "If you want, here's my number. You can call me when you guys got something, and I can let Snyder know." He's like, "Well, no, that's cool. Back in the door 3." So I get loaded, and from that point on, he was cool to me. Now, every other Snyder guy that went in there, he was an asshole to. But with me, he was cool. And so one time, one of my buddies, Big Rob, he calls me up. He goes, "Hey, man, I'm picking up this pallet place. You ever been there?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "Tell them that you know Steve with the green truck, and he'll treat you different." And sure enough, man, he went in there, and the guy had an attitude against him. He's like, "Yeah, man, Steve said that you were kind of upset at Schneider, but Steve in the green truck, he told me that you'd be cool." He's like, "Oh," and he said his tune completely changed to him. So sometimes, if you're working for a bigger carrier, when you go in somewhere, or let's say you're doing a C.H. Robinson load, and that's what it shows on the paperwork when you go to pick it up. Sometimes that's where the attitude from the ship and receiving office comes from. "Oh, we got another Schneider guy coming out. Ugh, I'm so mad at them." That kind of a thing. And so that's where the animosity can come from. So even though there wasn't much I could do for this guy, the fact that I addressed it, let him vent, and then was cordial with him, at least made it easier for me to pick up my loads. Because I was in and out of there a lot with Schneider. That was my way out of the house usually. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, Dave. That's what we're trying to do. He went into one scale yesterday or the other day, and they said they were understaffed, so they couldn't. How long does it take to build those relationships? It just depends. Um, the ability to do it. Like, I've had 3 different reps from this big brokerage, and every single one I've been able to have on the same level. I have drivers over here that say, "Hey, Steve, if you're ever in Indiana, look this guy up." I've got 2, not 1, but 2 contacts out of Denver because we bring exceptional service to these multi-stop loads that pay really well coming out of Denver. And so if you're always confrontational, if you're always trying to put one over, or you're always trying to conquer, brokers recognize that and they don't want to have a relationship with you. So it just depends on the person, Mr. Mallory. And but here's the other part of that. If there's no volume, there's no volume. If your broker that you have a relationship with doesn't have freight, they don't have freight. So you have to utilize the same techniques to, you're always constantly creating new relationships because, carrier reps go by the wayside. there's layoffs, people leave their jobs, and then you have to start all over again. But having the ability to do that is the most important thing that you can have. And there's one brokerage that I've been through 3 carrier reps. And so I have to kind of bring them up to speed of what we've done, what I've done, what we usually do, and how I approach things. And that usually makes them go, oh, okay, this dude's cool. Steve, example, no lowboard. My customer calls me yesterday, Sunday, 8 skids as a reefer, heated truckload, 3-hour drive from shipper, plus load, unload, plus empty miles home. Paid 8 hours, $1,400 carrier from TMS. Never hit the lowboard, did it? Because you had a guy that you called or a gal, right? You had a person. I will not do a negotiate on a live feed because brokers watch our stuff. I don't know if you guys realize that. There are a lot of brokers that are watching Facebook and YouTube that are just laughing at us. Literally just laughing at us. How much of this YouTube drama is because someone was being recorded on a phone call and then it was put out on YouTube? Well, guess what? Brokers don't like that crap either. Not everybody wants to be a YouTube star. So, no, I don't do live negotiations because it's different. You can call 10 different brokers and have 10 different results from 10 different personalities. The ability to be flexible, the ability to talk to these people, be the kind of person that can go into a boardroom of CEOs and be able to talk their language, but also be able to go into a room of people that may not have their act together and be able to talk to them. That's the ability that you need in any industry. Yep, each phone call is an audience. Sell your awesomeness. Like you're talking in the industry, it's ever changing. Say again, ever changing. You have to weather the storms and always have enough saved up to go through it till it gets better. It's that simple. Last time I felt the room out, I got slapped. Stuart, the hobby, late this morning. How is everyone? Says Stuart. Nathaniel Green. It comes to the customer and their threshold. Friday, I had a load I lost due to price. I came to within $100 of their expected budget, and I still lost the load. Another customer will pay top dollar. It varies, right? And that's the other thing. Look, if you're calling on cheap common goods like bottled water, there's really not much to it. I mean, you still got to sell, you still got to negotiate, but it's like, look, they got to move 100 of these. They don't want to hear your BS. They just want it moved at a decent price. And someone will always, always, always come lower. I've lost so many loads because another carrier came in and said, I'll do it for $100 less. So the whole race to the bottom becomes a thing, right? And so the higher your cost, the quicker you have to bow out of that whole game. Well, I can't run the next 3 loads for $1 a mile. That ain't going to happen. So you sit You get frustrated, you get mad, you blame the brokers. And that's understandable. But that's not going to solve your problems. It's that simple. Chucky, what's up? Dumb question. Why don't people just stay with the C.H. Robinson if you get your own agent instead of calling everybody? Well, because C.H. Robinson doesn't have all the loads. But predominantly, most people that I know are using 3 or 4 of the same brokers. In other words, their CH guy does this, and then their Arrive Logistics guy does that, and then they got a guy over here at Nolan that's got this, and then Uber's got that. That kind of a deal. Well, I am home. Coffee is done. Got things to do. Be safe and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Shadow Wolf. If a driver is losing loads due to overall carrier performance, address to owners. If they are not open to that difficult conversation and no plan for change, question who you're hauling for. That is absolutely true. Every interaction is an opportunity, and whether you like it or not, opinion is being formed, good or bad. Vice versa, do these freight brokers also have a YouTube channel or similar? Right. And understanding the game is the most important thing, or one of the most important things. If I call on a load that traditionally pays $1,500, and I sit there and ask for $4,000, are they going to take me seriously? No. That's like going into a convenience store and they want $5 for a coffee. What are you going to do? You're going to just walk out angry. I'm not paying that. Why? What gives them the right to ask for that? Right? Now, are there brokers that will sit there and try to legitimately move a load for $1 a mile? Yes, that does happen. If I look, and here's the deal: if I call on a load, and usually it's email because they don't want to hear the anger of drivers. Yeah, we're moving this. Yeah, it's 1,483 miles. We're moving these for 1,500. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're way off. I don't tell them what number we're off by because if they're fishing for rates, I don't want to give them that. But at the same time, I don't want to sit there, well, I need $4,000. Well, click. So what I do is I sit there and say, well, yeah, we're way off. Is there a reason why that's kind of low? Well, we move these all day and every day for this amount. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate you. Click. Not you're insane. I can't believe you disrespect me like that. You're an a-hole. Blah, blah. Yeah, I don't do that. It's like, look, if that dude can move loads for $1.10 a mile and he does it successfully, you can't fight against that kind of ego. You can't battle that ego. Now, if they're completely clueless, thinking that they can move a load for $1.10, then you don't want to deal with that broker either. And if they're just looking for the cheapest truck that doesn't do their homework, you don't want to deal with that broker either. So when they tell you that this load is only moving for $1.10 and they tell you that's what they're moving them for, it's easy to get angry at the guys that you think are moving that. But that's a negotiation trick. That is a negotiating trick. You realize this, right? It's designed to stir up emotion And if you're desperate, you'll take it. If you're not desperate, you get angry and you don't bother them with your high rate ever again. That is by design. It's a negotiating tactic. Are there lows that move for $1.10? Absolutely, there are. But if you don't want to move it for $1.10 and you have other options, then what do? You don't have to. You don't think that you're going to be that one person out of 100 that's called him today, and you think that you're going to be the one that actually gets through to him on educating him why you can't move a load for $1.10. It's like all these YouTube videos. You're not going to change people's minds, right? You're not going to. There's never going to be a time where the broker's like, really, I can't move this load for $1.10. Well, what do you suggest I move it for? How like if they're that clueless, you don't want to be dealing with that person. That's never going to happen, though. You're never going to educate the person that's literally taking 100 phone calls a day moving freight. But what you can do is once you do a load and you establish a relationship, if they're new, like I have a guy has no clue how trucking works. And so I explained to him, he goes, well, and he's curious to learn. Like, okay, why did you turn this load down, Steve? I offered you. Well, because of this time, because of this location, and because of this toll, and because of, this going on here. Oh, okay. And so he doesn't just throw a bunch of crap at me now. So there is a possibility of educating, but you have to have that relationship. You're not going to be some random stranger and suddenly tell them the magic of how fuel costs work. That's not going to happen. What's up, Nevada? You get out of Tacoma yet or Seattle? I spend $10 at Starbucks. ProStars let me live high in the hog. Yes, it is cold. TJ Jones, what's up? Emotions have no place in business. Getting angry or frustrated does nothing for your business. There it is. I had a broker, 3-letter broker name. Booked a load. It was on a Friday afternoon. He's like, "Hey, I know I said Friday afternoon, but it actually picks up Monday. Can you still do it?" I'm like, I got trapped in that game. Like, what do you mean? I said, well, a lot of brokers in your organization does this, and I was hoping that you'd be a little bit different. Well, no, I mean, if you call them out on their BS, they'll get angry. But I did it in a nonchalant, almost jokingly kind of way. We're playing this game. Another negotiating tactic that they like to do is, hey, you negotiate $2,000. Oh, I'll do this though for $2,000. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do this here. Da da da. Okay. Oh wait. Oh no, I just had another carrier said they'll do it for 18. Can you match that? I'll give it to you. Now, if they're lying and you withdraw yourself from that conversation, then they're screwing themselves. But if someone really wants to do that for 18, well, you've already committed to me. And so I don't play that game. So when they do that, I'm like, no, I was hoping that we can make a connection here, but obviously that's not important to you. And I understand that you have to move the load as cheaply as possible, but you and I came up with a rate, and I'd wish you'd honor that. But just if anything changes, have a nice, call me back, but have a nice day. I won't even deal with that, right? See, there are ways to turn down freight. There are ways to turn down their negative negotiating tactics. And it comes down to one simple thing. Don't be an ass. Understand the game. So if you have a CH rep or a Coyote rep that plays that game, ask for a new rep. Go above their head. Go to the truck shows and talk to their people. I did that with Alan Lunn. I went right up to Alan Lunn and said, "Hey, um, they're giving away free hats or something like that, or it was something free, because that's what they do." And it started a conversation. And the guy was like, "Hey, so do you use Alan?" Oh, yeah, I use it all the time. And so I told him what I didn't like about other brokers. I told them that they need to keep what they're doing, because I have no issues with Alan Lunn. I've made a lot of money with Alan Lunn. And so I was able to address my issues. There was another one, Transfix. I brought up the old infamous story when I called on a load from Sullivan, Missouri to Indianapolis, Indiana, and it was actually St. Louis to Chicago. I addressed that to him. I said, "Hey, that wasn't cool," but I was nice about it. Like, I don't really use you guys a whole lot because of that particular incident. So the guy gave me his number. He gave me his direct email. He said, "If you come across one of our agents doing that, you need to let me know because we've put a stop to that. We want your business." That's what customer service is. Now, have I called on a transfix load? Nope. But at least he made the effort. And unless I'm in a situation where there's only 5 loads to choose and 4 of them are transfix, then I have to make that phone call. But I try not to put myself in that situation. A lot of people ask me, "Hey, Steve, what would you do in my situation?" And I don't have advice for them because I'm sitting there like I would have never put myself in that situation. And that's part of my weakness sometimes is like, well, I don't know because I've never been in that situation. Because I know enough to avoid that situation. But you're right, Gary. Emotions have no place in business. Getting angry or frustrated does nothing for your business. Absolutely nothing. It might make you feel better. Man, I told that TQL rep off, man. Yeah, but your truck is still sitting empty at a truck stop because you don't know what you're doing. How does that help anybody? TQL's laughing at you. Everybody else is booking freight while you're sitting there all proud of yourself because you bitched somebody out. I mean, excuse me. Do a survey of shippers with so-called cheap freight. These cheap shippers rarely have any direct carriers. They use brokers to find carriers. Shippers are smart. It's strategic on how they get their rate. There you go. Understanding that fact will help you. Shannon says, in business, real professionals know emotions don't belong in negotiations. JF Chucker loves this type of stuff. Good morning. Operate below costs on some loads so you can operate significantly above costs on the next load. Yeah, it's not a load per load basis. It's what's at the end of the week, what's at the end of the month. And honestly, when you have a carrier like us that pays after every load, sometimes it's hard for the drivers, myself included, to focus on the fact that, wow, I just did this load for like literally at my cost to get out of this situation. Forgetting the fact that the load I just pulled was 20 times above my cost. So, I mean, you know, that's business. Do you think a restaurant does the same amount of business on every single day? No, Friday, Saturdays are going to be more busier than Monday and Tuesday. In fact, some restaurants are even closed on Monday because it's not worth it to stay open. So that's when they take their time off. So I can show you all this low board stuff, the boring low board stuff, like Thomas Wilson likes to call it. But if you don't know how to talk to people, you don't know how to negotiate, well, that's where I come in. I'm the guy that can do that for you. If you want to work in the spot market, but you hate talking to brokers, well, I'm your guy. That's where I come in. RickRunnerLogistics.com if you're interested. Tell you that I have no secret formula. There's no science behind it. I do look at all these tools, these graphs, and it helps me make decisions. But also my experience allows me to recognize that, if you run Pacific Northwest, you're dealing with a lot of bad weather this time of year. And that can affect your bottom line. If you're running Northeast, you have the weather and the tolls. If you're running through Pennsylvania, guess what? Pennsylvania likes to shut the interstate down at a whim. If you're running Montana, Wyoming, they like to shut the interstates down because they're impassable. If you want to run the Southwest, well, so does everybody else. And so that's when you see rates kind of take a dump. And so right now, everybody's in the Southeast. Georgia's a good market, but yet the rates are going to be low. Why? Because all the trucks are down there to avoid this cold that's coming through, to avoid the snow that's in the Pacific Northwest, to avoid all the stuff that the Northeast is seeing right now. So at some point, if you don't want to deal with snow, you're going to have to deal with low rates in the South. It's one or the other. And having the ability to understand why, when you go down to Georgia and Florida in February, why it's a lot worse on the rates. Because everybody else is doing the same thing. Understanding that. A lot of people go to Florida and are like, I don't know why I can't find $3 a mile out of here. What the hell? There's only 5 loads on the low board. That's how this works. And if you're on a closed board system like Landstar, Schneider, the same rules apply. Schneider, you're not talking to brokers or anything, but you're talking to the customers. You're not negotiating your rates, but if you provide excellent customer service in an area that only you are going in and out of, Schneider will actually call you and say, hey, we notice you're not doing these loads this week. Are you all right? I know people that's happened to me. That's happened to Steve Berger when he was over at Schneider. So Landstar, you've got the rules of the spot there, and the rules apply. The best loads don't hit the low board. The dedicated contract stuff that Landstar does have, and I know for a fact that pays very well, that stuff ain't hitting the DAT board. That stuff ain't hitting, their low boards. And if it does, it's a fluke because one of their normal drivers is off. That happens a lot this time of year. I had some great loads during December when I was at Landstar. Oh, yeah, we got 2 of these a week. Okay, cool. Call me when you have them. I'll call you. Next thing you know, they're not answering your phone, or they don't have any. They'll answer your phone. They want you on as a backup, but their normal guy that's been doing it for 5 years, that guy's getting that load, not you. Aaron Knowles, owner-operators told me in the past, sometimes you have to take a bad load to get you moved to a better location than those good loads. That is absolutely true. 800 to go from St. Louis to Columbia. Yeah, we did do that, didn't we? Sad part is that used to pay like over 1,000 to 1,200. So, T-Bone, what's up? See, and that's why TMS is essential. Run a year booking based on best rate, then run reports to evaluate what cities you had shortest empty to load ratio. This will help you figure out your ideal lanes. And look, I get the whole I don't want all that fancy stuff kind of mentality. And so that's where these maps here come in handy. If it's green, and again, you could look, let's say California's green right now, right? Let's say you're picking up a load here in New York and you're taking it to this area. This may not be green by the time you do this. What? How many miles is that? 2,500? Somewhere around there? So the market could flip while you're there. So what I look for is not the hottest spots, but the spots that are always always warm. There's always good rates, or at least consistent volumes in Ohio. Always consistent in Missouri. Texas just depends, but I can usually find something. So I have a strategy for Texas. Are you going to make $3 a mile going from Dallas to, I don't know, Pennsylvania? No. But you can get $3 a mile to go from Texas to Missouri, which is another good spot. And then from Missouri, I can get that money to go to PA if I so desire. There's a time that you have to do the short hops. And there are times when you have to take that big, long load. And I'm kind of in the middle somewhere. Super short does great depending on the area that you're in. You can't do super short in Wyoming. You can't do super short in Arizona. But you can definitely do super short in Missouri, in Texas, in Wisconsin, Illinois. You can literally just work in these 3 states, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. Just go back and forth. Avoid the toll roads in Indiana, Ohio. Worst thing you're dealing with is weather and traffic. But you cannot use the same method in this area. But even there. So Arizona, best paying load out of Arizona is going up to Denver. So you find your broker that's got the best paying load out of Denver. Or you have your business set up to where when you go from Denver back to Phoenix, because that's where you live, then you can take that hit and just go back and forth. These are the strategies that are going to help you get through the next 3 months. Because I promise you, and I could be wrong, so maybe I won't promise you, but I have a good feeling that freight's going to fall off a cliff this week and next week. Now, that polar vortex that's coming through is going to change some dynamics. You van guys are going to find some of your loads are going to have to go on reefers. So that's a part of running this business. And if all of this, I love the trucker stable. He's a YouTuber. He's over there at Landstar. He does not like me because I did not like Landstar. And he's all about the Blue Star. And he said that he was laughing. Thanks for the laughs on my live feed Saturday night. And I thought that was interesting. Now he's mastered, because of his love for Landstar, he's mastered the Landstar platform. And I give him credit for that, because he's made the best of his situation. He didn't like dealing with DEF trucks, so he got an old truck, a truck that he can wrench on. But I also know that he has no interest coming out in the spot market, because he sees a lot of the struggles that a lot of people that he and I both know have. I know that some people just want to get in their truck and drive. What's my next load, sir? And that's fine. But see, when you're doing self dispatch in the spot market, you have to have strategies. You have to have knowledge. You have to have some wisdom. You have to have some customer service. You have to have the ability to look at your situation and learn from it. And yes, it is a lot of work mentally and physically. But you know what? You get through it. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. There's nothing wrong with that. There are times when I'm tired. There are times I'm like, man, it would just be easier to just, I don't know. I never liked being dispatched. I wanted to go where I wanted to go. But it would be nice to not worry about truck payments or truck repairs or cost of fuel. And that's what a lot of these mega carriers are figuring out. Hey, you know what? You can make $100,000 a year, which is more than what you're making now, and you don't have to worry about any of those things. A lot of people are signing up for that, and for good reason. But eventually this will flip. Eventually this will turn. Eventually this will get better. But when it comes to the rates are still doable. The volumes are what concerns me the most. But even then, if you stay in the high volume areas and you find the brokers that don't even have to post their freight, then you're good. I get emails every single day from freight that's not on the low board. I get 60 emails a day from FedEx. That's not an exaggeration. FedEx Custom, 60 emails. How many times do you see a FedEx load on the DAT or the 123? Never. It was a weird fluke that I'm the reason for that. It was a weird fluke. I happened to be looking at the load board. I saw a load for FedEx, called them up. Hey, do you have this load? They're like, yeah, it was a good rate. The chick was easy to talk to, kind of knew what she was doing. She sent Jeff a carrier packet. He filled out their insane 27-page carrier packet, sent it back to him. And from then on, we get 60 emails a day from FedEx. And they're decent paying loads. CDN says exactly, Steve. There will be freight movement, but shippers will pick brokers who can get them a guaranteed truck. Most freight won't move on low boards. Landstar, more like Brokestar. They take so much per load. I don't see how the guys make it there. Well, because the Landstar BCO gets a different rate. Now, if you got a Landstar agent that's choosing from the spot, like they get their load from a CH Robinson guy, then they got to get their cut. So yeah, you're just the co-brokered stuff. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of money on that. But the best loads at Landstar are not co-brokered. They're not on that low board. I mean, I can tell you that by fact. I struggled there because of my inability to see a few things. It wasn't until now that I understood what was going on over there, but also because when I would make that connection with the agents, they would lose their freight to agents undercutting them. So that's when I realized that the co-broker stuff just isn't worth it. Or if the agents are going to a 3PL and they're underbidding each other, not recognizing that once it gets to a certain rate, it's not manageable. That happened with my shopping cart loads that I was doing, that I was making good money with. But stuff like fireworks and chemicals, hazmat chemicals, they didn't play that game. So that's where I had to go for the money. That's where the money is. If you know, and here's a perfect example. So there were these loads that I was doing from Joplin to Rogers, Arkansas. I was making $5.50 a piece. Another one of our not one of Like's trucks, but a friend of mine that was running with it, more of an acquaintance, because I knew his carrier owner. He was doing for $4.50. And then there was a Landstar guy that was running these for all week, and he was only doing it for $3.50 before his carrier's cut. I was like, ouch. Because obviously his carrier, his Landstar agent was getting him through either the broker I was using or Dart, because Dart had their hand in on that too. Be the captain of your slave ship. Dang it, SSD made me laugh and cough. It's not really a heat pump. You just got to keep them above freezing, so you can set them at 70 degrees, and they're fine. Post-trip says facts. Just remember, a captain goes down with the ship as well, Tyrannus, right? CDN, do you get shippers looking for short-term contracts so you can get a piece of every turn? My book of business is a bit different. I'm a customer focused. They've done always have regular loads daily, but regular yearly. I do a lot of job sites, oil field, gas plant, or branch transfers. Let's get it. Money to be made. I'm bringing more taters to the Midwest. We all love potatoes. Yeah. I'm trying to get on that train myself there, Spectre. So, look, I mean, it might sound like a lot of work, but if as long as you're a good person and you have the open mind to understand how things work, there's a lot of people that don't understand logistics and the complexities that are involved in it. Perfect example is when I was a company driver being dispatched. How many times did I say my dispatcher doesn't know what the hell he's doing? And then when I started self-dispatching, I realized the complexities that are involved with that. Because suddenly, not only was I a dispatcher, but I was also load planner. I was also customer service rep. I was also my safety. So I went from, man, my dispatcher doesn't know what the hell he's doing, to, holy crap, I have no idea what I'm doing. And so you have to chop your ego down. You have to take your pride, throw it out the window, take your ego, stomp it in the ground, do a curb stomp on him, and figure out that, no, you don't know. So let's learn. And if you can't do that, you're not going to make it. I don't care how good or bad you think the market is. You're not going to make it if you can't do that. Unfortunately, when the rates are as high as they were and the volumes were as high as they were, anybody was making money. Whether they knew about relationships, whether they knew how to talk to brokers, whether they knew how to self-dispatch, you could throw a rock at anything and make $1,000 a day. It was that easy. But now, not so much. So now you have to tune your instrument before you go play in the orchestra. Whereas before, you can just get in there and play without tuning. Now you got to tune. Now you got to be right on it. And you're going to make mistakes, and things are going to happen. You're going to have loads cancel. How do you recover from that? That's where your costs come in. If your costs too high, recovering from a mistake that was either yours or somebody else's can be costly. You learn something new today along with a little psychology, and that's pretty much what it is, look, when I see someone lash out, like there's this TV show that'll come on every now and then. It's called Neighborhood Wars. When I see someone lash out at other people, and there's this lack of empathy, that comes from a place of pain. That comes from a place of dopamine addiction. And I really learned a lot about myself and what's going on with other people through the failures of myself. If you're a former drug addict and you see someone addicted to drugs, you have an understanding of where they're at. In the ability, I was never a drug addict or anything like that. What I'm saying is, if you see an alcoholic or if you see someone that eats too many donuts, I can, you being able to relate to that. I don't have to be an ex-drug addict to relate to what they're going through, because I've gone through similar things, just not that particular thing. And that's important to understand, have empathy, to understand why things happen. Why is the Atlanta market hot at one point in the year and not in the other? Why did it suddenly blow up to $4 a mile and all miles and everything? People thought that was the norm, and those of us that have been in the game a while knew that it wasn't, and we knew that the consequences of that were coming. When you have, and bear with me on this one, okay? If you have an overabundance of something, I don't care what it is, it creates complacency. And then now you're off, your guard's not on anymore. And complacency breeds mediocrity, and mediocrity loses flexibility. So understanding that when a market is super, super hot, that it ain't going to last, and there's going to be repercussions to that. Just like when a market is super low, there are going to be repercussions to that, and it's not going to last. I was wrong on the fuel prices. I thought that fuel would be up to $7 nationwide at this time of the year, and it wasn't. So I'm glad I was wrong about that. I have no issues telling people that I was wrong about that. But at the same time, I wasn't like shoving it in everybody else's faces. Oh, it's going to be $7 a mile or a gallon. It's going to be $7 a gallon. You better give up now. I wasn't doing that either. But a lot of people like to do that. That's how you sell clicks. But psychology is important. Understand. Look, if someone's emotional, you got to understand why they're emotional. I've had people lash out at me, and I've completely forgiven them because I know that comes from a place of pain. That comes from a place of not understanding my situation. That comes from not knowing the whole story, because I don't tell you guys the whole story. You don't know every detail about my life. All I am is just some dude telling you how I look at the low boards, how I look at the market, and how I treat brokers, and how important it is to have your costs in check. That's all I am. That's all I am. And the more people person you can be, the more sociable you can be, the network of people that you surround with has to be a higher caliber, the better off you are. I got a whole new respect for dispatchers when I started booking myself. Absolutely. So the cold is post trip's fault. He was bringing the Arctic with him from the Northwest. No, we were blaming CDN, Chucky. Addictive behavior is what I've heard, right? 90 minutes so far. I think I've missed a good live feed. It's just I don't know. Saturday night I got frustrated because it's like I was banging my head against the wall because these echo chamber, I get 5, 6, 10 people on here, and it's the same stuff. It's the same thing, and it's to the point that if you haven't figured it out, you're not going to. And it all starts with you being a good person, being able to talk to people, or if that's your weakness, then figure out how to get over that weakness. And some people have said, Steve, I hate talking to brokers. I can't stand that. So I need you to book loads for me. I need you to help me out. And that's what I do. And you know what? It pays my bills. And I've created this excellent network of brokers and drivers and carriers that are more valuable than you guys will ever know. And if I walk away from this thing tomorrow, which there's no chance of that, then I know that I did what I could. And it's if you can eat right and you can sleep right and be open to conversation, drop your ego and help each other out, that's how you get through the tough times. Don't take advantage of people. Don't take advantage of their generosity. Don't be a parasite. Potential 2 ways to run on spot. First, partner with 4 to 5 brokers and chase their best paying loads all over. You're focused on servicing these brokers. Their entire company knows who you are. Second option, pick the lanes you want to be in, draw it out, build your website, advertise, and be the absolute expert in those lanes. Never depart. Over time, freight will come to you. Customer versus lane. Oh man, I was muted. Find a plan um that gets through it on the oil thing. Oh man, how long was I muted for? I'm not in the Northwest. I'm part-time cheesehead at this point. There you go. CDN, do you prefer your regular carriers to post their trucks anywhere they are when available? Yeah, and Sage, yes, you can't do sale if you can't do sales in business, you hire salesmen, right? It's that's simple too, right? And if you are the salesman, then take some courses, read a book instead of watching, YouTube shenanigans. Get yourself an Audible account and download some great books. Even if you get one thing from each book, you get 12 books a year from Audible. Part is part of what you pay. And if you get 12 things that you didn't know last year from 12 books, then your time's not wasted. Understanding the human psychology is huge. when it comes to sales. There are times when drivers call me because, you know, they know that they'll just bark at the broker. So they'll call me like, "Hey man, I'm struggling to get out of here. I'm frustrated. You know, what can you do?" So, I'll have them a load usually within an hour. There's definitely some raging mediocrity in the industry, right? I appreciate your efforts, Snorelord. Thank you. I was muted for 5 seconds. Yeah, I apologize. How did you not end up hauling boats with your background and building them, Snorelord? Okay, so I'll tell you exactly why. So when my dad decided to get off the road, he was looking to possibly get back on the road, and so he contacted Tracker Marine at the time that was independent and wanted. Hold on. And looked at doing their work, but they didn't pay round trip rates. They paid one direction, then he came back empty. So the pay structure of those wasn't worth it. So we never did that. Now, at one point, Bass Pro Shop said, "Hey, we want a trucking company to come in that's got a brokerage, and we want them to handle all the logistics, in and out freight. We don't want to deal with any of it." So they hired Werner to do that. And so what happens is Werner will go to Maverick, or they'll go to TMC and say, "We want you to haul our boats. We want you to haul the trailers for the boats." And they have the equipment that's set up, right? And then Tracker, I believe, bought out Ranger Boats. They bought out a lot of the other boat companies. That's what they do. But when it comes to like G3 and Low, which are out there in Lebanon, Missouri as well, they already had contracts with TMC and all that. Now, I was never a flatbedder. You have to have some flatbed knowledge to haul boats. The guy that was my original trainer at Transland, he became a boat hauler, and I knew that work wasn't for me, so I never really dove into it. But yeah, Maverick, Werner, TMC pretty much has that in the bag. And you got to have specialized equipment to haul that. And it still isn't paying that great. I mean, you never see, I've never seen that in the flatbed world. Now, every now and then you get like 3 boats that need to go on a step deck. And that's good money, but that, again, that's a tender rejection. That's the excess. And also, boats are a luxury commodity. So when the economy takes a dump, guess what? No one's selling any boats. So it wasn't worth the security there. But it was Tracker Marine. A broker is a salesman, just like a car salesman. Your own operators should be just like them, but somehow y'all turn out to be honest, hardworking individuals. Developing relationships with a small group of brokers is a great idea. They know your quality, and you get the best rate if you provide professional service. Like, okay, so let's and that's important, but let's take TQL. TQL will not give you a rep. Their reps are dedicated to the freight, right? So you'll have one broker that has that, like the power only. There's one guy that handles all the power only. They're out of Michigan and Indiana. And so I can call his direct extension and see if he has anything. But they do not give you a carrier rep like C.H. Robinson does, right? But if you're a carrier of like 30 trucks and you're constantly doing a bunch of TQL loads, well, now they put you on a different status. So when you call, you get a different phone conversation than the guy that's calling out of the blue. So they take that same model and they've done it for themselves. In other words, they're not giving you a rep, but when you call, if you have a name for yourself because your carrier's, got positive performance, then they talk to you differently. Then they call you. If you're a business, ask yourself, what do you bring to the company that's your strong point, and what's your weakness, right? You got a killer load to Nogales, Arizona, 4,700, $30 a mile, 5,000 pounds. That's from Oregon. Excellent. You just got a lot of weather to go through. You are up to speed. See, Nevada, you just, look, sometimes patience pays off. Build a business that uses your strengths and can hire you for your weaknesses. You can't do everything right. Great. Right? Well, only I can. So there's the ego. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Once I get out of Walmart, I'll be heading to our cabin and be off grid until sometime in January. Well, Gimbar, enjoy your time off. Great show. Got to go. Yeah, I got to get out of here too. I got to use the bathroom, and this actually bypasses all the weather. That's good. And see, okay, so let's take this scenario, Nevada. If I was in your shoes and I was like looking at that load, number one, recognize that Nogales is going to have its own issues, but I'm sure you know that, right? And so I'm going to call the broker and hope that they don't know much about routing or mapping, other than, you know what, it's snowing like crazy and I'm going to have to go through some tough weather. That's why, you're having trouble finding somebody for this load, which is why you negotiate your rate. You're solving a problem for them. Now, they don't have to know that you can route yourself around that snow. They don't have to know that you've already got the details all laid out. And so you use that to your advantage. And then later on, after you book the load, if they call you like, hey, we're concerned about the weather, do you think you'll make it in time? Then you go, well, I just so happen to map this and I think I'm going to be good. This weather's, show that you've done your homework on the weather to make them feel more secure. And guess what? That's an opportunity to create a relationship for freight that comes out of Washington that goes to Arizona. So now the next step is, what can I find out of Arizona on a regular basis that I can utilize the same way? That's what I do. It sounds complicated, but it's not. So, so hopefully that maybe that's what happened. I don't know. I don't know how you negotiated that, but that's good. Now, it might be a multi-stop load. Who knows? Anyways, guys, let's do the hot market map real quick. This is let's do reefer. Notice this map doesn't change much from the different platforms. Let's put this up here. All right. Now I'm being a salesman. Anyways, this is the hot market map for reefer. You see that California is green and you see Texas is green. This is produce coming from Mexico. That might be something that you get if you're a reefer out of Arizona, out in the Nogales area. Okay. And then Florida also is lit green because of produce as well. Now, evidently, Louisiana doesn't like produce. So let's go to flatbed. A lot of lumber still rolling. As you can see, this area is still pretty hot and heavy. A lot of this is short runs. Okay. A lot of it's short runs. Texas, you can make a career Georgia to Texas and back and make pretty good money hauling lumber. It's heavy, a lot of tarping. and you stay out of the weather. Now the rates are going to drop, obviously, because it's seasonal, and also everybody's going to flock down south. Guys, it's supposed to get this Arctic blast is supposed to go as far south as Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas. And so you're going to have a lot of people fleeing all the bad weather here and all the bad weather here. And so your rates are going to drop in those areas coming out. Unless you grab something that you let the broker know, this is going into a blizzard, I need X amount. Not knowing that, and they wouldn't have to know that by the time we get there, the blizzard's over, right? So let's do Van. Utilize that knowledge. If you have more knowledge than they do, use that to your advantage. This is Van. So there you go. Those are your states you want to be hanging out in. So we're not going to get into the details. If you're on the spot market, you're not getting emails and calls from brokers each day. You have not done enough marketing. There you go. One stop, it was a solo run with first come, first serve on delivery. Cool. And then you guys can knock it out in half the time and you're good to go. So now your rate per day is through the roof, and it probably makes up for your bad weekend that you had. So that's just my assumption. I don't know the whole story. So with that being said, guys, we're going to close that off. Thank you for watching. I will probably not be going live tomorrow, and but I will be putting up some recorded stuff, I hope. I will. I've got one truck that I got to deal with, and then everybody else is home for Christmas. So it's going to be an easy, light week. So trucker stable come up in Minnesota. It's all pretty white trees, white roads, and it's a whopping 1 degrees. Yeah, it's going to get worse. So, and if you thrive in that kind of weather, you can make some money coming up here with this polar vortex. And he's got an old truck, so he can idle that thing and not worry about his DPF system. Keep that truck rolling, keep the fuel from gelling. So, anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. And we'll talk again Wednesday. And from there on, as the Bible tells you, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. Peace.